Season 2 of Warzone 2 is finally here, and with it are a whole bunch of updates. But in this video, I'm focusing on the audio fixes and what that might mean for our settings. Now, obviously, audio is one of those things we've all complained about on Warzone and Modern Warfare 2.
Did anybody hear this guy? Anybody?
And hopefully this update goes some way to fixing some of those issues. Now, just to highlight what Call of Duty said in the patch notes regarding the audio bug fixes, they said that they addressed a number of missing audio elements in the user interface, so that's nothing actually in the game. Then they fixed an issue where the ping sounds could be missing when pinging items or map locations from certain positions. They also fixed an issue affecting the sound effect for enemies dropping cash onto the ground upon death. So both of those two things no one was really complaining about massively. Really, most of the concerns have been around footsteps. But then they also note that they fixed several issues where specific materials were occluding incorrectly. Now, occlusion in this context just means how we hear the sound when there are obstructions in the way. So that might be a wall, or they might be on a different floor, or through a building, or something like that. So that sounds positive. However, the wording specific materials sounds suspicious to me. It doesn't really sound like footsteps or enemy movements in any way, but I'm still quite hopeful. And then they note that we need to see other specific audio fixes below. And when we go down to what that is, again, they have enhanced occlusion in all core 6v6 multiplayer maps. So they don't mention Warzone here, but the assumption is either now or in the future, we might see those audio changes come to larger maps when they've tested out how that actually feels in 6v6. That being said, these audio changes are a positive for us on Warzone. As up to now, sometimes it's basically impossible to hear someone running around right next to you, unless seemingly they're on wood and it's the loudest thing on the game. So what does that mean for our settings? Well, if you've watched my previous videos, you may have seen that I have previously recommended home theater as the audio mix. This was simply because of the way the audio was mixed and equalized, and I felt like you got all the important sound effects that you needed, and none were dampened out or overlooked by some other loud sounds. But with these audio updates in the couple of games I have played, I do recommend switching back to headphone bass boost. Now, a lot of the important sound effects that we want to hear, such as footsteps, occur on the lower frequencies, so boosting the bass sounds should allow us to hear those footsteps much easier. Then as we come down, we have master volume. That's up to you to figure out, as most people just tune their volume on their headsets these days. That being said, on the breakdown, I do recommend these settings, so the music you can put straight down to 0. This will ensure there are no distractions with your audio, and you should be able to hear other things much clearer. However, I've got mine back up to 20, just because I've enjoyed listening to war tracks in vehicles again. But that's basically it. Dialogue volume, likewise, I've put this down quite a bit to 50. You don't want characters screaming down your ear, but occasionally they do shout quite important things that you may have missed, such as an enemy saying they're putting down a claymore, or they've taken bullets, or something like that. Effects volume, we absolutely want this on 100, as this is things like footsteps. Then voice chat volume, similar to master volume, a lot of people tune this on their headsets. Then for voice chat volume, that's dependent on your mic. 50 usually works for most people though. Then a lot of these other settings down here are quite subjective, such as proximity chat or last words voice chat. You can of course get in-game advantages if you put proxy chat on, as sometimes you can hear other teams talking, but the flip side of that is they could hear you talking if you are communicating with teammates actually in-game chat. And if you do communicate in-game chat and you have proximity chat on, you might want to turn up your open mic sensitivity. So by turning this up, it means we need to be louder for it to register with the microphone. And this is great to ensure that background noise or breathing doesn't get picked up on the mic, then show up for other players on proximity chat. The next important setting is subtitles. I always recommend that people put this on, and that's for the same reason as the dialogue volume. You can get information cues from enemy operators shouting things, and if you don't quite hear it, you'll be able to read it with subtitles on. Then you want to make sure that your mono audio is off. That just ensures that stereo audio is enabled, so we get that directional sound in our left ear and our right ear, rather than all sound being pumped in all directions. Then the reduced tinnitus sound is actually a great addition to Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. Enable this so when you get flashed or stunned, it's not as annoying. Then on top of that, because you haven't got that ringing sound, the chances are that you might be able to hear the enemy pushing you and you can at least start to react. Hopefully this updated audio settings video gives you an advantage next time you drop in. If you want to master your controller and graphics settings whilst you're here, by the way, I recommend checking these videos out.